Unimutani at the son of Miss is Liberia Education Minister Dr. Jason
Thank
Mani
you.
Jala.
Thank you very much. Minister Gerald McPia and the SMT team. I am here today to brief the nation along with my senior management team, Deputy Minister of Administration, Attorney Yeke Fopa, Deputy Minister Dr. Samuel Toe, Planning, Assistant Minister Teacher Education, Minister Kona Clifford, Assistant Minister Thomas Momopaka, Assistant Minister Planning, Assistant Minister Fasam Howard Nyiswa, Assistant Minister for ECE, Early Childhood Education, of course, my Chief of Staff, Mr. Abraham Diger, and our Director of Communications. We call him the town crier for the Ministry of Education. They've all joined me today. I think I see Kleju back there, supports our planning team. And we've come to deliver some critical information that the public needs to know in terms of our latest activities and achievements at the Ministry of Education. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, fellow citizens, I'm happy to be with you today in this historic hall once again. It is with much pleasure and thanks to the vision of His Excellency President Joseph Nyomo, the hard work of the team at the Ministry of Education, and the collaboration with the Civil Service Agency and the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning. I'm happy to announce that we have created the fiscal space to transition 56% of volunteer teachers to government payroll. Pillar 6 of the Arrest Agenda for Inclusive Development acknowledges the role of volunteer teachers as being an integral part of the education system. This is a key intervention captured in Program 41 of the AAID, Governance of the Education System, which speaks to this administration's view that volunteer teachers and their services are needed, they're important, and they are valued. To this end, 56% of all qualified volunteer teachers are going to be transitioned to the payroll this year. We are so grateful to the President for his leadership in this regard. You will recall that during my first press briefing, I talked about the need for quality education. You cannot have quality education without qualified teachers, motivated teachers, and respected teachers. So it's been over a year. We inherited a system laden with complex challenges of unimaginable proportions, where a lot of our teachers were underpaid or not paid, for which I will elaborate on later. We have several people that are trained, working and sweating every day, who are not being compensated in any shape or form in our classrooms nationwide. Therefore, upon the conclusion of my nationwide tour, one of the first things I did was to conduct a nationwide profiling exercise of volunteer teachers. As part of this exercise, we were able to understand who they were, where they were, what their credentials were, and the subjects they were teaching, and so on and so forth. Subsequently, there was a need to verify and to understand indeed their credentials, whether their credentials submitted were accurate and valid, and whether they were legitimate. It has always been our commitment to ensure that those who are working hard in our classrooms are taken care of. The initial profile volunteer teachers showed 6,190 volunteer teachers. But we realized that out of that number, 1,520 did not have any teaching credentials. In other words, they were not qualified and were not credentialed with either an A, B, or C certificate, nor a post-secondary degree. Hence, the next step we undertook was a comprehensive internal audit. And so after that audit, we realized that there were 3,557 volunteer teachers credentialed in active service. And so our total list is 3,557, from which we subsequently proceeded. In that number, we have created the fiscal space to transition 2,000 volunteer teachers to payroll, and 2,000 constitutes 55.9, that is 56% of volunteer teachers. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, this has not been an easy task. Imagine the enormity of this task. My team and I have worked tirelessly, which required constant collaboration with our supporting agencies, the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning, and the Civil Service Agency, along with CEOs and DEOs and the MOE Central Office team. So with that, there's going to be a process to which these 2,000 volunteer teachers are going to be transitioned. Beginning immediately, our team from tomorrow will be in the field conducting the process as follows: registration, interview, submission of credentials, completion of personnel action forms, and signing of a training contract. By the 30th of April, the process will be completed. The CSA will then have them on payroll, and they will begin to have their compensation. The next topic I'm going to elaborate is the salary top-ups. I believe some weeks ago, the Minister of Finance shared information in that regard. When we took over, we had over 9,000 of our hardworking teachers and non-teaching staff underpaid. And lest I forget, also included was some non-teaching staff. I'm here to announce that all underpaid teachers on government payroll, for which the MOE Office of Human Resources has a record of your credentials and qualifications, have received salary top-ups. When we took office a year ago, nearly 70% of the teacher workforce of MOE were underpaid, meaning they were not being compensated based on the civil service structure, salary structure. As we speak, 9,271 of the 13,001 teaching workforce on the MOE payroll who were underpaid have received salary top-ups. This restructuring reflects the ministry's commitment to enhancing the livelihoods of teachers and elevating education standards across the country. I would like to express my gratitude to my team, especially those in the Department of Administration, headed by Deputy Minister Attorney Yeke Fokwa, Assistant Minister Jonathan Jackson, Director of Human Resources, Mr. Josephus Mite, and his team. This team has worked tirelessly with the Civil Service Agency and the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning. This is an all-government approach to ensuring that we take care of our teachers and educators. When we say we value teachers, we really mean it. It's not in words, but it's in action. As they say in Latin, facta non verba, meaning action, not words. This restructuring reflects the ministry commitment to enhancing the livelihood of teachers and elevating education standards across the country. Again, thanks to all those who have helped to make this possible. And with that, I'll take questions.
Education Minister, Dr. Jaso Jala. Um, Dr. Jala just highlighted key reforms in the education sectors, range from status of voluntary teachers and salary structure for teachers. So if I just join you, I'd like to say welcome. This is Ellen TV Lateral Live, and I'm broadcasting to you live at the Ministry of Information, Culture Affairs and Tourism. Keep following. Yes,
Okay, thanks so kindly. I'm Israel M. Logan. I work for Punch Radio Liberia. I have two questions, one to Minister Sano and the next to Dr. Jato Jala. Minister Sano, the government said by February, between February and March, there will be the construction of the interchange at the ministerial complex. Liberians are concerned on the start of this project. Are we on course? Because we have about 6 days for this month to end. So what can we say to that in relation to the construction of the interchange? And to Dr. Jaso Jala, thanks so kindly for the different reform mechanisms the team at the ministry are rolling out. But in the course of this week, we're following a situation involving the MCSS students. They are protesting over what they term as unpaid arrears to their teachers. And you came to address the nation. We didn't hear much of that. Is it concerning to the ministry? And what are some of those different steps then taken to have that situation resolved? Thank you.
Thank you so great. I want to say many thanks and appreciation to the family of MICAP and to our dear minister. Madam, thank you so much for the level of explanation. So my name is James M. Bala and I report for Radio Joy Africa in Maggie County. Madam, thank you so much. But one thing I want to know is the recruitment exercise is one thing that's helping us across whether in the rural area of the country. But there is the issues of salary when it comes to people who take place in our banking institution. There is a something called push. There are people who work in the Ministry of Education. Some of them are yet to receive their salary to the banking institutions when it comes to the push. What is the Ministry of Education doing in making sure that those teachers whose salaries are not coming through get them so that they will not be joining people who are protesting? Thank you. And my other questions go to the Minister, Minister Daniel Sambo. Our Minister, thank you so much for the explanation this morning. You did explain it well. But one question that I want to ask is the issue that has to do with the suspension of the officers. These officers were acting on the high profile of government officials who their mandate is more than their bosses. So what would be the consequences if you suspend them and those who instructed them? What is their penalty? Thank you.
So my name is Joseph Salif and I report for ABC Radio. My first question goes to the Minister of Education. Madam Minister, when you went on the nationwide country tour, you care to give us a picture of the infrastructure of schools across the country. And my last question goes to Minister Daniel Sano. When Liberia Vice President endorsed a candidate in Lima that said something against women, that discriminating women and endorsing and that woman, don't you think that's a form of intimidation in Lima County? Thank you. Few weeks ago, Liberia Vice President Jeremiah Kwankun endorsed Representative Samuel Koka, who said something against a female in Lima County. Don't you see that as a form of intimidation and discrimination against a woman? Thank you.
And so my name is Mano Mupulu. I want to say thank to the Minister Education. You sound like an educator, but I want to remind you of this thing. most of the young people don't understand the constitution of this country. And the constitution is provide that it should be taught in school so that we can understand our law in order to be on path. Since you're sounding so eloquent, what is your take, about, teaching this constitution in school so that we can be aware of our laws? Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Stephen Ravos and I report for the Liberia News Agency. A few other questions for the Education Minister. The first question is, recent time when you took over since last year as Minister of Education, there were reports that there were changes of CEOs assigned in federal counties in Liberia, and some of these CEOs claim that you did not re-assign them. I mean, they were taken from their job, no assignment, and they were, just around the ministry. So no assignment, they even take the issue at the level of the court. Where are we in terms of handling that matter? Another issue could be, in recent time, the president passed a mandate on the one child, one chair project. There was a mandate that all of those suspended government officials' money be remitted to that project. Can you tell us as to how much have you received and how is this money going to be spent and how is it going to affect schools of rural counties in Liberia? Another concern could be
one question, cultural affairs and tourism. Keep following.
Thank you for those insightful questions. And when you're having press briefing, you give the highlights and you wait for the journalists to intrigue you with their questions, and then you provide more insight. I think it was Ishmael Logan who asked the first question about MCSS and the current situation that's unfolding. It is of concern to the ministry, as the ministry is the custodian of supervision of education across the nation, and also by my role as vice chair on the board of MCSS. It has been brought to our attention that the students have taken to protest on the advisement that their teachers have not been paid. Let me send this strong warning to those who will use our students to fight their battles. We are not going to take this sitting down, because our children need to be in the classroom. They need to be educated. As the vice chair of the board, we held an emergency meeting yesterday looking at several other concerns in addition to what's unfolding. And we've come to understand that students have been used as a ploy because teachers have left the classroom, and of course it's not identified whether or not these are government paid teachers on the MCSS payroll or volunteer teachers. Let me remind you, the MCSS, if you access the budget for MCSS, 4.2 million is allocated to the operations of MCSS, with 3.9 million going to pay salaries. So there should be no reason for teachers not being in the classroom. And that we are investigating closely. I spoke with the IG this morning, as well as the superintendent. In addition to the IG, we are not going to rest until we find the culprits that have our children in the streets. We owe it to them to ensure the classroom is nurturing and is a place that they can go and learn. James Mulva, you talked about the recruitment exercise. I think some nomenclature around push, that they're yet to receive salary. Forgive me, I'm not aware of what that is, but I can tell you that those that are supposed to receive their salaries are receiving their